Beneath the waves, where sunlight fades into darkness and pressure crushes even the strongest metals, lies a world of forgotten secrets, entire cities swallowed by the sea, ancient ruins frozen in time, and artifacts whispering stories we've only begun to unravel. Picture this: a single dive, one moment in the vast blue unknown, and suddenly you're face to face with a crumbling column, a shattered statue, or a relic that hasn't seen human hands for thousands of years. These aren't just remnants of the past, they're clues to civilizations lost to history, waiting for someone bold enough to uncover their truths. This is the realm of underwater archaeology, where the ocean floor isn't just sand and rock but a puzzle stretching back millennia. Every sunken ship, every submerged temple, every mysterious structure hidden in the depths holds a piece of the story, a story we're only just beginning to piece together. And what if I told you there are 25 of these clues, 25 tantalizing hints scattered across the globe's oceans, each one a breadcrumb leading us closer to understanding these vanished worlds? From the legendary streets of Atlantis-like cities to the silent ruins of empires swallowed by rising seas, these discoveries don't just rewrite history, they challenge everything we thought we knew. So let's dive in literally and figuratively. Over the course of this journey, we'll explore underwater caves hiding ancient tools, shipwrecks filled with treasures meant for gods and kings, and even entire settlements that vanished overnight. Some of these clues are etched in stone, others are whispered in the currents, waiting for the right explorer to listen. But one thing's certain: by the time we surface, you'll never look at the ocean the same way again. Because the truth is, we've only scratched the surface of what's down there, and who knows, the next great discovery, the one that changes history forever, might be just one dive away. Ready to solve the mysteries of the deep? Let's begin. Off the coast of Japan's Yonaguni Island, beneath turquoise waves that hide more than just coral and fish, lies one of underwater archaeology's most heated mysteries, the Yonaguni Monument. Towering stone terraces, sharp 90-degree angles, and what appear to be staircases carved into the rock stretch across the seafloor like the ruins of a sunken city. Some scientists argue these formations are entirely natural, shaped over millennia by ocean currents and tectonic shifts. But others point to uncanny symmetries: the flat platforms, the perfectly straight trenches, the pillar-like structures that seem too precise to be the work of chance alone. If this isn't nature's handiwork, then who built it and when? The debate turns even more intriguing when you consider the timeline. These structures sit in water around 80 feet deep, but geological studies suggest this area was above sea level until roughly 10,000 years ago, back when Earth's coastlines looked radically different after the last ice age. Could the Yonaguni Monument be a relic from a time before written history, a ghost of a civilization swallowed by rising seas? Some researchers connect it to Japan's ancient Jomon people, a Neolithic culture known for their sophisticated pottery and stone tools. Others go further, whispering about connections to the legendary lost continent of Mu, a Pacific counterpart to Atlantis mentioned in fringe theories. But here's where it gets even stranger. Nearby, divers have found what look like carved faces in the rock, along with tools and tablets covered in symbols that resemble later Japanese writing. Skeptics dismiss these as pareidolia, our brains seeing patterns where none exist, but for believers, each dive adds fuel to the fire. Imagine standing on those submerged steps, running your hands over stone that might have been shaped by human hands when woolly mammoths still roamed the earth. Whether natural or man-made, the Yonaguni Monument forces us to ask, how much of our past is still out there waiting beneath the waves? And if this is just one clue, what else might be hiding in the ocean's shadows? Imagine a city so grand, so vital to ancient trade, that its name was whispered in markets from Greece to Mesopotamia, only to vanish beneath the waves for over 1,000 years. This is Heracleion, Egypt's legendary port city, once the gateway between the Mediterranean and the Nile. For centuries, it was thought to be a myth, a tale spun by sailors and historians like Herodotus. Then, in 2000, a team of underwater archaeologists led by Frank Goddio made a discovery that stunned the world: colossal statues, golden amulets, and the ruins of temples emerging from the seabed near modern-day Alexandria, as if the sea itself had decided to give up its secrets. Diving into Heracleion feels like stepping into a time capsule frozen in the 4th century B.C.E., the city's grand temple of Ammon, its towering statues of pharaohs and gods, even its ancient harbor waits, all preserved in eerie silence under layers of sand and sediment. Among the most striking finds is a black granite stele, nearly identical to one found on land in Memphis, inscribed with a decree that essentially served as an ancient tax code. But what's truly breathtaking is the scale of the artifacts. A 16-foot-tall statue of the god Hapi, personification of the Nile's fertility, lying face down as if toppled by some cataclysm, and a shimmering gold plaque bearing the name of Cleopatra's ancestor, Ptolemy III. These weren't just ceremonial objects, they were the lifeblood of a city that thrived as a melting pot of cultures, where Egyptian priests, Greek merchants, and Phoenician sailors rubbed shoulders in bustling markets. So how did this powerhouse of the ancient world end up 30 feet underwater? The answer lies in a perfect storm of geology and human folly. Heracleion was built on unstable delta sediment, and over time, rising sea levels exacerbated by earthquakes and tsunamis slowly liquefied the ground beneath it. Artifacts tell the story of a city fighting back, walls reinforced with imported timber, buildings hastily repaired, and eventually abandonment. The very trade that made Heracleion rich, ships laden with grain, gold, and incense, may have sealed its fate as the weight of its bustling docks pressed down on the fragile land. By the 8th century CE, the sea had claimed it entirely, leaving only whispers in historical texts. But here's the twist: Heracleion's destruction wasn't just a local tragedy. Its submersion mirrors a pattern seen in coastal cities worldwide, from India's Dwarka to Greece's Pavlopetri. The ripple effects were staggering. With Heracleion gone, Alexandria's rise as the new trade hub reshaped Mediterranean power dynamics, redirecting wealth and influence. And the city's fate serves as a hauntingly modern lesson. Today, as sea levels climb at an alarming rate, Heracleion's ruins are more than archaeological treasures, they're a warning etched in stone. The very forces that swallowed this ancient metropolis are now lapping at the shores of Miami, Venice, and Mumbai. Yet amid the sobering lessons, there's magic in Heracleion's rediscovery. To see a diver's light illuminate the face of a quartzite pharaoh, or to hold a coin last touched by a trader 2,000 years ago, is to bridge time itself. Every artifact pulled from the silt whispers the same question: what other cities, what other stories lie hidden beneath the waves? And if a place as vast as Heracleion could vanish for millennia, what might still be waiting for us in the unexplored depths? Just north of the Bahamas, where the Caribbean Sea shimmers in shades of blue so vivid they defy description, lies a formation that's fueled debates for decades: the Bimini Road. Stretching nearly half a mile along the ocean floor in water barely 20 feet deep, this curious line of massive, rectangular limestone blocks looks eerily like a paved road or the foundation of some long-lost structure. Some claim it's a smoking gun, proof of Atlantis, the legendary civilization Plato described as sinking beneath the waves in a single cataclysmic night. Others insist it's nothing more than a quirk of nature, a geological oddity shaped by tides and time. So which is it, a man-made marvel or Mother Earth's handiwork? The case for human construction hinges on the blocks themselves. Arranged in a near-perfect straight line, many feature sharp edges and right angles that seem too precise for random erosion. Divers have even reported what appear to be tool marks and stacked layers, like masonry techniques used in ancient megalithic sites worldwide. In the 1960s, self-taught archaeologist Joseph Manson Valentine became the formation's most vocal advocate, arguing that the block's uniformity and alignment couldn't possibly be natural. His theories caught fire among Atlantis enthusiasts, especially when core samples revealed the stones were made of a rare type of limestone not native to the area, suggesting they might have been transported there. But then there's the science. Geologists point to a phenomenon called beak rock, where natural cementation of coastal sediments can fracture into strikingly geometric shapes over centuries. Wave action and tidal forces can further erode these fractures, creating the illusion of deliberate craftsmanship. Radiocarbon dating of organic material in the rock places its formation around 3,000 years ago, long after Atlantis was said to have fallen. Even the tool marks might just be the work of burrowing mollusks or the scrape of shifting boulders, yet the Bimini Road's allure isn't just academic. It's become a cultural touchstone, a magnet for treasure hunters, mystics, and Hollywood alike. Documentaries speculate about its ties to the Bermuda Triangle's disappearances. Novels weave it into tales of advanced ancient seafarers, and for every skeptic there's a diver who's swum those waters, run their hands over those uncannily straight edges, and come away convinced against all logic that they've touched something made by human hands. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Whether natural or artificial, the Bimini Road forces us to confront how easily our eyes can deceive us and how desperately we want to believe in lost worlds. After all, if this really were a road, where does it lead? And who or what might have walked it last? Now let's journey from the Caribbean to the shores of Western India, where the Arabian Sea guards one of history's most beguiling underwater secrets, the sunken city of Dwarka. For thousands of years, Hindu texts like the Mahabharata and the Puranas have spoken of this legendary kingdom, a dazzling metropolis ruled by Lord Krishna himself, adorned with golden towers and bustling harbors. But the scriptures also tell of its tragic fate, swallowed by the sea in a single cataclysmic event, just as Krishna departed the earth. For centuries, scholars dismissed Dwarka as myth. Then, in the 1980s, marine archaeologists made a discovery that sent shockwaves through both academia and the faithful. Massive stone walls, ancient anchors, and pottery shards scattered across the seafloor, right where the text said the city should be. Diving into Dwarka's ruins is like stepping into a sacred storybook. The most striking finds are the stone anchors, some weighing hundreds of pounds, with holes meticulously carved for ropes. These weren't just tools, they were lifelines for a city built on trade, evidence of a bustling port described in the Mahabharata as welcoming ships from distant lands. Then there's the pottery, terracotta fragments dating back over 3,000 years, their designs eerily similar to artifacts found in contemporary Indus Valley sites. But perhaps the most spine-tingling discovery is the submerged wall running nearly 2,000 feet along the seabed. Its rectangular stones so precisely fitted that they've withstood millennia of tides. Could this be part of Krishna's fortress, the one said to have had gates of silver and streets paved with jewels? The real magic lies in how closely archaeology mirrors the ancient texts. The Mahabharata recounts Dwarka's construction on land reclaimed from the sea, and sure enough, core samples reveal the area was once dry land before rising waters claimed it. The scriptures also describe the city's sudden destruction, waves swallowing its glory after Krishna's death, a scenario supported by geological evidence of a massive tsunami around 1500 BCE. Even the timing aligns. Carbon dating places the underwater artifacts squarely in the late Harappan period, when India's Bronze Age civilizations were undergoing dramatic upheaval. Yet Dwarka's significance isn't just historical, it's a living bridge between faith and science. For devotees, each recovered artifact is a divine affirmation, proof that Krishna's kingdom was real. For archaeologists, it's a rare case where mythology and sediment cores tell the same story. And for the rest of us, it's a humbling reminder that some legends aren't just stories. They're memories etched in stone and whispered by the waves. As the Arabian Sea slowly reveals more of Dwarka's secrets, one question lingers. If this city of gods and kings was real, what other myths might be waiting beneath the tide? Deep in the frigid waters of the Baltic Sea, where sonar echoes bounce off shipwrecks and ancient glacial formations, lies a mystery that's defied explanation for over a decade: the Baltic Sea Anomaly. Picture this: a team of Swedish treasure hunters in 2011, sweeping the seafloor with side-scan sonar, expecting to find old merchant vessels laden with gold. Instead, their screens lit up with something far stranger: a massive, disc-shaped object nearly 200 feet across, resting on the seabed like a crashed UFO. With a long trail behind it, as if it had skidded to a halt, and bizarre right-angle formations that looked almost architectural, the discovery sparked a frenzy of speculation. Was this a natural oddity, a lost Nazi weapon, or something even more otherworldly? Initial sonar images only deepened the enigma. The object's surface appeared to have strange, staircase-like ridges, and samples pulled from the site contained metals not typically found in the region, including limonite and goethite, materials that, under the right conditions, can conduct electricity. Even more puzzling, divers reported their equipment malfunctioning when they got too close, with cameras flickering and radios cutting out. Conspiracy theorists pounced, calling it everything from a downed alien spacecraft to a secret Cold War installation. But geologists offered a simpler explanation: a glacial deposit shaped by melting ice and shifting sediments over thousands of years. After all, the Baltic Sea was carved by glaciers, leaving behind erratic boulders and odd formations. Yet the anomaly refuses to be dismissed so easily. When a second expedition captured higher-resolution images, they revealed something even more perplexing: what looked like pillars or support structures beneath the main disk, as if it were perched on a pedestal. And that long, skid mark trailing behind it, some researchers argue it's too precise to be the result of natural drag. Even the malfunctioning equipment has alternate explanations, like strong magnetic anomalies from mineral deposits. But here's the twist: no one has ever brought back definitive proof. Funding shortages, harsh diving conditions, and the sheer depth, nearly 300 feet, have left the Baltic Sea Anomaly tantalizingly out of reach. What makes this mystery endure isn't just the object itself, but what it represents: the human obsession with the unexplained. Whether it's a UFO, a geological fluke, or something in between, the Baltic Sea Anomaly taps into our deepest curiosity: the thrill of not knowing. Every grainy sonar image, every conflicting theory keeps us asking the same question. In a world where satellites map every inch of the planet, how can something this big, this strange, still hide its secrets? Maybe that's the real wonder, not the anomaly, but the ocean's stubborn refusal to give up all its answers. Off the southern coast of Greece, where the turquoise waters of the Laconic Gulf lap against the Peloponnese, lies a city so ancient it predates even the glory of classical Athens' Pavlopetri. Submerged just 13 feet beneath the surface, this sprawling Bronze Age settlement isn't just the oldest underwater city ever discovered. It's a stunningly preserved time capsule from a world 5,000 years gone. Unlike other sunken ruins, Pavlopetri's streets, buildings, and tombs remain eerily intact, their stone foundations tracing the outlines of a bustling community that thrived centuries before the pyramids of Egypt rose from the desert sands. What makes Pavlopetri extraordinary isn't just its age, but its clarity. Most submerged cities are fragments, a few scattered columns or the skeleton of a temple, but here the entire urban grid survives. Aerial surveys reveal a network of streets laid out in a deliberate, almost modern pattern, with distinct residential quarters, public squares, and even a sophisticated drainage system. The buildings themselves, their walls still standing waist-high, suggest a society that valued order and communal living. Archaeologists have identified courtyards, staircases, and what appear to be workshops, their floors littered with pottery shards and stone tools left behind as if the inhabitants had just stepped out. But the real revelation is what Pavlopetri tells us about Bronze Age trade. Nestled along a key maritime route, the city was a hub for commerce, its harbor teeming with ships carrying copper from Cyprus, olive oil from Crete, and amber from the far-off Baltic. Among the ruins, divers have found loom weights, proof of a thriving textile industry, and seal stones engraved with Minoan symbols, evidence of cultural exchange with Crete's advanced civilization. Even the city's layout hints at its cosmopolitan nature. Open plazas near the water's edge, likely used for trading, and large storage rooms packed with amphorae, the ancient equivalent of shipping containers. Then there's the mystery of Pavlopetri's downfall. Unlike Heracleion or Dwarka, swallowed by sudden tsunamis or rising seas, this city's fate seems gradual. Geological studies suggest a combination of earthquakes and slow sea level rise, its streets flooding inch by inch over generations. The absence of weapons or signs of violence points to a peaceful abandonment, as if the people simply moved inland, leaving their homes to the tides. Yet Pavlopetri's greatest gift might be its humility. Unlike the legendary Atlantis or the gold-laden halls of Heracleion, this was a working-class city, a place of fishermen, merchants, and craftsmen. Its ruins don't whisper of gods or kings, but of everyday life. Children playing in courtyards, traders haggling in the market, families gathering around hearths. That's what makes it so revolutionary. It's a rare glimpse into the ordinary world behind the epic tales of antiquity. As climate change threatens to expose more of Pavlopetri's secrets, rising temperatures are eroding the protective silt that's preserved it for millennia. Archaeologists race against time to document every stone, every artifact. Because this isn't just a relic, it's a mirror. In its streets, we see the echoes of our own cities, our own struggles with rising waters, and in its silence, a question: what will the ocean claim next? In the murky depths of the Gulf of Cambay, off India's western coast, lies a discovery so controversial it threatens to upend everything we thought we knew about the dawn of civilization. Back in 2001, marine scientists conducting routine pollution surveys stumbled upon something extraordinary: sonar images revealing geometric patterns on the ocean floor, structures so symmetrical they screamed of human design. Further exploration uncovered stone tools, pottery fragments, and even what appeared to be the remains of buildings, all buried under layers of sediment. But here's the bombshell. Carbon dating suggested these artifacts were a staggering 9,500 years old. That's millennia older than the Indus Valley civilization, long considered the cradle of Indian culture. If verified, this wasn't just a sunken city. It was a time capsule from an era when humanity was supposedly still in its infancy. The implications are dizzying. Mainstream archaeology places the rise of complex urban societies around 4000 BCE, with Mesopotamia and Egypt leading the charge. Yet the Gulf of Cambay's ruins hint at a sophisticated settlement thriving 5,000 years earlier, during a period historians once dismissed as the domain of hunter-gatherers. Imagine a city with organized layouts, advanced toolmaking, and perhaps even trade networks, existing while much of the world was still cloaked in the Stone Age. Proponents argue this could be evidence of a lost precursor civilization, one that mastered coastal living long before recorded history began, but skepticism runs deep. Critics point to the site's turbid waters, where strong currents and shifting sediments make precise excavation nearly impossible. Some artifacts recovered, like the so-called wooden beams, were later deemed likely to be natural formations, their tool marks the result of erosion or marine activity. Even the carbon dating has been questioned, with opponents suggesting the samples could have been contaminated by older organic material in the sediment. And then there's the sheer absence of corroborating evidence, no similar sites nearby, no references in ancient texts, just a lone underwater enigma. Yet the Gulf of Cambay refuses to be ignored. Among the most compelling finds are microliths, tiny, razor-sharp stone blades that require precision craftsmanship, and pottery decorated with intricate designs, suggesting artistic expression alongside utility. Even more provocative, sonar maps reveal what look like river channels beneath the seafloor, hinting that this area was once dry land, part of a vast coastal plain swallowed by rising waters at the end of the last ice age. That timeline aligns eerily with global flood myths, from the Epic of Gilgamesh to Hindu tales of lost kingdoms. What's at stake here isn't just academic pride. If the Gulf of Cambay City is real, it forces us to rewrite the story of human progress. Were there other advanced societies lost to rising seas? Did knowledge spread from these forgotten hubs, seeding later civilizations? Or is this a false dawn, a trick of the ocean's restless hands? For now, the site remains a Rorschach test. Some see a missing chapter of history, others a mirage. But one thing's certain, until we can explore its depths properly, the Gulf of Cambay will keep its secrets and the tantalizing possibility of a world older than we ever imagined. Beneath the crystal-clear waters off Cuba's western coast, where sunlight dances over coral reefs and shipwrecks, lies a mystery that's baffled explorers since 2001, a series of massive geometric structures resting half a mile below the surface. Sonar images captured by a team of oceanographers reveal what appear to be smooth-sided pyramids, some as tall as a 10-story building, arranged in precise formations that defy easy explanation. The sheer scale is staggering. One structure spans nearly the length of 2 football fields, and the angles are so crisp, so deliberate, that it's hard to dismiss them as mere quirks of nature. Could these be the ruins of an ancient city, a forgotten outpost of Mesoamerica's pyramid builders? Or are we staring at evidence of something even older, something whispered in the legends of Atlantis? The location alone raises eyebrows. Just 12 miles from the Yucatan Peninsula, a region steeped in Mayan and Olmec lore, the site sits at a depth that suggests it was above water during the last ice age, when sea levels were hundreds of feet lower. That timing overlaps with the zenith of Mesoamerican civilizations, leading some researchers to speculate these could be ceremonial centers or trading hubs swallowed by rising seas. The Mayans, after all, revered water as a sacred portal to the underworld. What if these pyramids were part of a ritual landscape deliberately built near the shore? Supporting this theory are sonar anomalies that resemble roads or causeways linking the structures, echoing the paved avenues of cities like Chichen Itza. But then there's the Atlantis angle. The structure's depth, around 2,000 feet, places their submersion far earlier than any known Mesoamerican culture. Plato's dialogues describe Atlantis sinking around 9,600 B.C.E., a timeline that intriguingly aligns with the end of the last glacial period. Could Cuba's pyramids be remnants of that fabled empire? Proponents point to indigenous Taino myths about a cataclysmic flood that destroyed an advanced island civilization, stories that mirror Plato's account. Even more tantalizing are reports of unusual electromagnetic readings near the site, with some divers claiming their equipment malfunctioned, a detail often linked to Atlantis's legendary energy crystals. Skeptics, however, urge caution. The deep ocean is a sculptor of bizarre landscapes where tectonic shifts and undersea landslides can create formations that mimic human architecture. The so-called pyramids might be examples of pillow basalt, a type of volcanic rock that fractures into angular blocks. And without physical samples, retrieving artifacts from such depths is a logistical nightmare. Theories remain just that, theories. Still, the Cuban government has quietly protected the area, labeling it a zone of archaeological interest, while expeditions led by figures like Polina Zalitsky, the engineer who first documented the site, continue to push for further exploration. What makes this mystery so electrifying isn't just the potential rewrite of history. It's the way it blurs the line between geology and mythology, between what we can prove and what we feel in our bones when we see those sonar images. Whether natural or man-made, the sunken pyramids of Cuba remind us that the ocean's greatest gift might be its ability to keep us wondering. After all, if structures this colossal can hide in plain sight for millennia, what else might be lurking in the uncharted dark? Dive into the shadowy depths of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, where labyrinthine underwater caves hold secrets older than the pyramid's secrets written in bones, artifacts, and the very walls of these flooded chambers. Known as cenotes, these natural sinkholes were once dry caverns, serving as shelters, sacred sites, and even burial grounds for some of the earliest humans to set foot in the Americas. Today, their crystal-clear waters preserve a time capsule of Paleo-American life, offering clues that challenge our understanding of how and when humans first arrived on this continent. Among the most electrifying discoveries is Naya, the nearly complete skeleton of a teenage girl who lived nearly 13,000 years ago. Found in Hoyo Negro, a cenote so vast its depths resemble a starless night, Naya's bones tell a story of survival and tragedy. Analysis of her remains suggests she fell into the cave while searching for water, her fate sealed in the darkness. But her DNA unlocked something even more profound, a direct genetic link to modern indigenous peoples of the Americas. This tiny, fragile skeleton bridges the gap between ancient migrations and living communities, proving that the first Americans didn't vanish. They thrived, their descendants walking among us today. Yet Naya is just the beginning. These submerged caves are strewn with the remains of extinct megafauna giant ground sloths, saber-toothed cats, even elephant-like Gomfather's animals that roamed the Yucatan when it was a dry, windswept savanna. The presence of human artifacts alongside these creatures suggests our ancestors shared this landscape, hunting and scavenging in a world unrecognizable from today's jungles. Charcoal fragments and butchered bones hint at campfires lit in the cave's mouths, temporary shelters for nomadic groups braving a harsh, unfamiliar land. But the cenote's significance isn't just scientific, it's spiritual. For the Maya, these pools were portals to the underworld, places of ritual and sacrifice. Divers have found ceramic vessels, jade beads, and even gold ornaments deliberately placed in the cave's most remote chambers, offerings to gods believed to dwell in the watery abyss. Some cenotes reveal darker secrets, the bones of children, their remains arranged with care, suggesting ceremonial burials or pleas for divine intervention during droughts. These finds blur the line between archaeology and anthropology, showing how ancient fears and faiths echoed across millennia. What makes the Yucatan's underwater caves so extraordinary is their duality. They're both archives and altars, preserving hard evidence of human migration while cradling the intangible, the hopes, fears, and beliefs of those who came before us. As rising sea levels and climate change threaten to erase other coastal sites, these flooded cenotes stand as resilient guardians of the past. Every dive into their depths isn't just an exploration. It's a communion with the very first Americans, their stories etched in stone and bone, waiting for us to listen. In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, where the water stretches endlessly in every direction, lies an island so shrouded in mystery it feels like something out of a dream, Nan Madol. Built atop a coral reef off the coast of Pohnpei in Micronesia, this ancient city of stone is a labyrinth of 92 artificial islets, connected by canals and towering basalt walls that seem to defy the very logic of construction. The locals call it the Venice of the Pacific, but that comparison barely scratches the surface. The truth is, Nan Madol shouldn't exist. The basalt columns used to build it, some weighing up to 50 tons, were quarried miles away, and yet here they stand, stacked like matchsticks without a single trace of mortar. How did a civilization without wheels or metal tools move these monoliths across land and sea? The answer might lie not just on the island, but beneath the waves surrounding it. Divers exploring the waters around Nan Madol have stumbled upon something even more astonishing: submerged structures that mirror the city's layout. Massive stone platforms, half buried in the seabed, stretch into the deep, their edges too precise, their angles too deliberate to dismiss as natural formations. Some researchers believe these could be the remnants of a much larger complex, one that predates Nan Madol itself. If true, it would mean the city we see today is merely the tip of a forgotten empire, its heart now lost to the ocean. Legends passed down by Pohnpei's oral traditions speak of the Sordalur dynasty, the god kings who supposedly built Nan Madol with the help of magic or, as some theorists suggest, advanced technology. The stories tell of tunnels beneath the city, passages that supposedly led to other islands now flooded. Could these underwater ruins be the proof? The mystery deepens when you consider the wider Pacific. Nan Madol's architectural style, the precision-cut basalt, the megalithic scale, bears an uncanny resemblance to other distant ruins, like Japan's Yonaguni Monument or even parts of Easter Island. Is it possible these sites are fragments of a connected civilization, one that thrived before rising seas fragmented their world? Indigenous myths across Polynesia and Micronesia whisper of a great flood, a cataclysm that swallowed entire nations. The submerged structures near Nan Madol could be the physical evidence of that catastrophe, a drowned chapter of human history. Yet for all the speculation, Nan Madol guards its secrets fiercely. The local elders warn against disturbing the site, speaking of curses and spirits that still walk the crumbling causeways. Even modern archaeologists tread carefully. The city's true age remains disputed, with estimates ranging from 1,000 to 2,000 years old. And then there's the ocean's role. Rising sea levels have already claimed parts of the outer ruins, a haunting reminder that time is running out to uncover the truth. What makes Nan Madol so captivating isn't just the enigma of its construction. It's the possibility that this eerie, abandoned city is just a glimpse of something far grander, a civilization whose full story lies buried beneath the tides. Every stone, every submerged platform is a clue, and the ocean, as always, holds the key. Off the coast of Tamil Nadu, where the Bay of Bengal meets golden beaches fringed with palm trees, lies a legend as old as the waves themselves, the tale of the 7 pagodas of Mahabalipuram. For centuries, fishermen told stories of a city so grand that the gods grew jealous, sinking 6 of its glorious temples beneath the sea in a single night of divine wrath. Only one temple survived, they said, the shore temple, standing sentinel on the coast as a reminder of what was lost. Most historians dismissed it as folklore. Until the day the ocean decided to give something back. It was the tsunami of 2004 that changed everything. As the colossal waves receded, they scoured the seabed near Mahabalipuram, revealing something astonishing: massive stone structures buried under centuries of sand. Divers rushed to investigate, and what they found sent shockwaves through the archaeological world. Towering walls, elaborate carvings of lions and elephants, even what appeared to be the foundation of a second temple complex, all lying just 15 feet below the surface. The most striking discovery, a giant stone lion, its snarling mouth still defiant after 1,000 years underwater, poised as if guarding the entrance to a forgotten realm. These weren't random rocks, they were the fingerprints of a lost architectural marvel. The timing fits eerily with historical records. 7th century Chinese traveler Xuanzang wrote of a bustling port city near Mahabalipuram adorned with 7 jeweled pagodas, so radiant their reflections danced on the water. Local Tamil poetry from the same era describes a thriving coastal capital of the Pallava dynasty. its temples clad in gold leaf that glittered like fire at sunset. Yet by the Middle Ages, mentions of these structures vanish, coinciding with geological evidence of a massive tsunami that struck the region around the year 900. The math is chilling: 6 temples swallowed, 1 left standing, exactly as the legend said. But here's where science and myth collide in breathtaking fashion. Recent sonar surveys have mapped not just scattered ruins, but what looks like an entire submerged city plan: gridded streets, artificial pools, and a series of rectangular platforms that mirror the shore temple's design. Even more compelling are the carvings found on these underwater blocks: intricate floral motifs and deity figures stylistically identical to those in Mahabalipuram's known monuments. This wasn't some unrelated settlement, it was an extension of the same sacred landscape, a spiritual metropolis half drowned by time. What makes Mahabalipuram's secret so tantalizing isn't just the confirmation of an ancient tale, it's the bigger picture it paints. Across India's coastline, from Dwarka to the Gulf of Cambay, similar stories echo. A pattern emerges: advanced civilizations thriving along now submerged shores, their fate sealed by rising seas and seismic disasters. The Pallavas were master architects, their above-ground temples at Mahabalipuram already UNESCO-listed wonders. If their underwater ruins prove equally sophisticated, we may be staring at a blueprint for how coastal cultures worldwide adapted or succumbed to the ocean's might. As divers continue to piece together Mahabalipuram's sunken puzzle, each discovery feels like uncovering a page from a drowned history book: that stone lion. It wasn't just decoration. In Pallava symbolism, lions represented royalty and protection. Perhaps this one was meant to guard the city against exactly the catastrophe that came. Today, it watches silently from the seabed, a sentinel between two worlds, the one we thought we knew and the one the ocean has kept hidden all this time. High in the Andes, where the air grows thin and the sky presses close, Lake Titicaca stretches like a mirror to another world. At 12,500 feet above sea level, it's the highest navigable lake on Earth, but its surface barely hints at the secrets below. For centuries, local Aymara and Quechua communities have spoken of a time before the lake, when their ancestors walked where water now flows. They told of temples and cities, of gods who demanded gold in exchange for protection, and of a great flood that swallowed it all. To outsiders, these were just stories until divers began pulling treasure from the depths. The first clue came in the form of a tiny llama. Not a living creature, but a figurine crafted from pure gold, no bigger than a thumb, resting on the lake bed near the island of the sun. Then came more: ceremonial cups, intricately woven textiles, and even a massive stone anchor, all preserved in the cold, oxygen-poor waters. But the real shock came when sonar scans revealed what looked like a sprawling road, its stones neatly fitted together, vanishing into the murk. This wasn't random debris, it was a deliberate path, one that might have once connected islands now submerged. The implications were staggering. If roads existed beneath Titicaca, did entire settlements follow? Archaeologists soon connected these underwater finds to the Tiwanaku, a civilization that thrived here over 1,000 years before the Inca. The Tiwanaku were master engineers, their above-ground ruins near the lake showcasing stonework so precise it rivals Machu Picchu. But their relationship with the water went deeper. Excavations on the lake's islands uncovered altars where offerings were tossed into the waves, a practice the Inca later adopted, casting gold and precious stones into Titicaca as gifts to the gods. Now the lake was giving some of it back. What makes these discoveries so extraordinary is how perfectly they align with indigenous oral histories. Elders speak of a time when the lake was smaller, when the island of the sun was part of a larger peninsula dotted with shrines. Geological studies confirm its sediment cores show Titicaca's water levels have fluctuated dramatically over millennia, rising as glaciers melted and climate shifted. The flood in local lore wasn't myth, it was memory passed down through generations. that sunken road, possibly a processional route used by pilgrims, now lying 30 feet underwater. Yet the lake's greatest mystery might still be hidden. In 2013, divers discovered a massive stone temple near the Bolivian side of the lake, its walls adorned with carvings of serpents and sacred symbols. The structure dates back at least 1,500 years, but its purpose remains unknown. Some believe it was a ceremonial center for the Tiwanaku's water rituals. Others think it could be part of a larger, undiscovered city swallowed by the lake's expansion. Lake Titicaca's ruins do more than rewrite history. They bridge the gap between science and tradition. Every golden offering pulled from the silt, every stone pathway mapped in the dark, is a testament to civilizations that revered this water as both life-giver and destroyer. The lake, it seems, has always been more than a body of water. It's a living archive holding the echoes of those who understood its power long before we did. And as explorers continue to probe its depths, one question lingers: how many more offerings, how many more roads lie waiting in the cold, silent dark? Beneath the choppy surface of the Black Sea, where modern freighters trace paths between Europe and Asia, lies one of geology's most explosive debates, a theory so dramatic it could explain the origins of flood myths across cultures. Around 7,600 years ago, this inland basin wasn't a sea at all, but a vast freshwater lake, its shores dotted with some of humanity's earliest farming villages. Then, according to the Black Sea flood hypothesis, catastrophe struck. A rising Mediterranean, swollen by melting glaciers, burst through the natural dam at the Bosporus, unleashing a wall of salt water 200 times more powerful than Niagara Falls. Within months, the lake became a sea, swallowing an area the size of Ireland and displacing countless communities. Survivors would have fled in all directions, carrying tales of a deluge so vast it reshaped their world, stories that may have seeded legends from Noah's Ark to the Epic of Gilgamesh. The evidence lies in the mud. Core samples extracted from the Black Sea's depths reveal a stark geological divide. A layer of ancient freshwater sediment abruptly capped by saltwater deposits dating to around 5,600 BCE. Even more telling, the carcasses of freshwater mollusks fossilized just below this boundary, their shells bearing chemical signatures of a sudden, lethal influx of salt. But the smoking gun came in the late 1990s when marine archaeologist Robert Ballard, yes, the Titanic discoverer, led an expedition that found an ancient shoreline nearly 400 feet below today's surface. Submerged in the pitch-black, dead zone where oxygen vanishes, the remains of a drowned river valley snaked across the seabed, its contours matching pre-flood maps. Nearby, sonar picked up what looked like the outlines of rectangular structures, their angles too precise for nature. Could these be the foundations of houses abandoned as waters rose? Critics argue the flood wasn't a single catastrophic event but a gradual rise over centuries, pointing to archaeological sites like Varna in Bulgaria, one of Europe's oldest gold working centers, that show no signs of sudden abandonment. Yet even skeptics concede the cultural impact. The Black Sea Basin was a cradle of early agriculture, home to the Cucuteni Tripilia culture with their massive clay settlements. A disaster of this scale would have sent shockwaves across Neolithic trade networks, scattering refugees who carried their flood stories westward into Europe, south to Mesopotamia, and east toward Anatolia. It's no coincidence that nearly every ancient civilization near water, from the Greeks to the Hindus, has a deluge myth featuring divine wrath, a chosen survivor, and a boat crammed with animals. What makes this hypothesis so compelling isn't just the science, it's the human element. Imagine standing on that prehistoric shoreline as the first saltwater surge crested the horizon, the roar of collapsing ecosystems in your ears. Those who escaped wouldn't have understood the geology. They'd remember only the terror, the loss, the sense of a world remade. That trauma, etched into oral tradition, might be the Black Sea's most enduring legacy. Every time we hear the story of Noah, we could be listening to an echo from the depths, a ghostly whisper passed down across 300 generations. And if that's true, what other ancient truths might still be waiting beneath the waves? Off the coast of modern-day Israel, where the Mediterranean's azure waters kiss golden sands, lies the ghostly skeleton of one of antiquity's most audacious engineering feats, the sunken port of Caesarea. Built by Herod the Great in the 1st century B.C.E., as a tribute to his Roman overlords, this harbor wasn't just a dock for ships, it was a statement. Imagine a city rising from the sea, its breakwaters stretching half a mile into open water, its lighthouse towering like a beacon of power. For centuries, Caesarea's harbor thrived as the Mediterranean's crown jewel, a hub of trade and politics where Egyptian grain, Arabian spices, and Roman legions flowed through its gates. Then the earth moved. Today, the ruins of this marvel sit 20 feet underwater, a silent testament to nature's relentless power and a chilling preview of what might await our own coastal cities. Diving into Caesarea's submerged ruins is like flipping through the pages of a disaster manual. The harbor's colossal concrete blocks, some weighing over 50 tons, lie scattered like dice across the seabed. These weren't just dropped haphazardly. They were part of an ingenious Roman innovation, hydraulic concrete that hardened underwater, forming an unshakable foundation. Or so they thought. Archaeologists mapping the wreckage have found telltale cracks and tilts, evidence of the earthquakes that rocked this coast in the 4th and 6th centuries C.E. One quake, likely measuring 7.5 on the Richter scale, liquefied the harbor's sandy base, causing entire sections to sink in minutes. Tsunamis followed, their waves scouring the city's grand boulevards and leaving behind layers of marine sediment in places no saltwater should ever reach. But what makes Caesarea's collapse so haunting isn't just the scale of destruction, it's the parallels to today. Modern sonar scans reveal the harbor's original design was flawless, with breakwaters angled to deflect waves and deep channels dredged for large ships. Sound familiar? It's the same blueprint used by ports from Rotterdam to Singapore. Yet Caesarea's engineers made one critical miscalculation. They underestimated the seabed's instability. Core samples show the harbor was built atop a geological time bomb, a layer of soft clay that turned to soup under seismic pressure. Fast forward 2,000 years and we're repeating the same gamble. Coastal megacities from Istanbul to Los Angeles sit atop fault lines, their skyscrapers and docks just as vulnerable to the next big shake. Amid the ruins, though, lies a glimmer of hope. Recent excavations have uncovered Herod's contingency plan's secondary docks built farther inland, warehouses stocked with emergency supplies. The Romans, it seems, knew their masterpiece was living on borrowed time. Perhaps that's Caesarea's real lesson. Engineering can defy nature, but only for so long. As sea levels rise and storms intensify, the ghosts of this drowned harbor whisper a warning across the centuries. The difference: we have the tools to listen if we choose to. Long before the North Sea became the churning expanse we know today, it was a sprawling, fertile plain, a lost world known as Doggerland. Imagine walking through forests of oak and hazel, crossing rivers teeming with fish, tracking herds of aurochs and red deer across grasslands that stretched from England to Denmark. This wasn't some mythical realm, it was real, home to thriving Mesolithic communities who lived here for thousands of years. Then, around 6,500 B.C., rising seas began to swallow the land, inch by relentless inch, until the waves finally claimed it all. Today, Doggerland lies beneath 40 fathoms of water, but its secrets are slowly resurfacing, one artifact at a time. Fishermen trawling the North Sea's depths have long pulled up strange treasures in their nets, not just fish but ancient bones, flint tools, and even fragments of amber. These weren't random flukes, they were clues to a vanished world. Archaeologists studying these finds have pieced together a startlingly vivid portrait of Doggerland's people. Take the barbed antler points, carved with such precision they rival modern fishing spears, or the finely knapped flint blades used for skinning game. These weren't crude survival tools, they were the product of generations of knowledge, adapted to a landscape rich in resources. Even more telling are the hearthstones found in sediment cores, their surfaces scorched by fires that burned 8,000 years ago. Picture families gathered around those flames, roasting fish caught in nearby rivers, telling stories under skies untouched by city lights. But Doggerland's most haunting relics aren't tools, they're footprints. In 2014, researchers mapping the seabed off Norfolk's coast discovered a set of human and animal tracks preserved in ancient mudflats. The footprints, pressed into the earth during a brief dry spell, capture a single moment frozen in time. A child's bare feet, aurochs' hooves, even the paw prints of what might have been a wolf or dog. Were they running, hunting, simply playing? The tides erased the answer, but the imprint remains a fleeting glimpse of life before the deluge. The land itself tells its own story. Sonar surveys reveal submerged river valleys. One, nicknamed Shotten River, once wound through Doggerland's heart, its banks lined with hazel and willow. Pollen samples from seabed cores paint a lush mosaic of wetlands, marshes, and woodlands, a paradise for hunter-gatherers. But then came the Storegga Slide, a catastrophic underwater landslide off Norway around 6,200 BCE that triggered tsunamis taller than three-story buildings. Waves would have devastated coastal camps, sending survivors fleeing inland as waters kept rising. Over centuries, saltwater seeped into freshwater ecosystems, poisoning drinking sources and driving game away. The people of Doggerland didn't just vanish, they adapted, retreating to higher ground that would become the British Isles and mainland Europe. What makes Doggerland so extraordinary isn't just its tragedy, but its legacy. Genetic studies suggest its people may have been among the ancestors of modern Europeans, their stories echoing in flood myths like the Welsh legend of Cantra Gwaelod, a kingdom lost to the sea. And the lesson resonates today. Doggerland didn't drown overnight. It was a slow crisis, a relentless encroachment that forced choices we now face anew. As climate change nudges sea levels upward, archaeologists see Doggerland as both a warning and a challenge. If we can reconstruct a world buried for millennia, what might future generations uncover about us? The North Sea's waves keep their secrets close, but every bone, every tool, every footprint is a whisper from a time when the ocean was just a distant rumble on the horizon. Beneath the shimmering blue waters surrounding Santorini, where whitewashed villages cling to volcanic cliffs, lies a secret that could rewrite history, a lost city swallowed by one of the most catastrophic eruptions humanity has ever witnessed. The ruins of Akrotiri, buried under layers of ash and pumice for over 3,600 years, are often called the Pompeii of the Aegean, but that comparison barely scratches the surface. Unlike Pompeii, this wasn't just a wealthy Roman town. It was a sophisticated Minoan outpost, a hub of trade and culture with multi-story buildings, elaborate frescoes, and even flush toilets. And here's the spine-tingling part. Some researchers believe this ruins and the cataclysm that destroyed them might have inspired Plato's tale of Atlantis. Diving into Akrotiri's underwater remnants feels like entering a time capsule frozen in the 17th century BCE. The city's layout reveals a level of urban planning that rivals modern cities' cobbled streets with drainage systems, storerooms packed with imported goods from Egypt and Syria, and homes adorned with vibrant murals of saffron gatherers and leaping dolphins. But what truly sets Akrotiri apart is its architectural ingenuity. The buildings were reinforced with wooden beams to withstand earthquakes, a detail that suggests the Minoans knew the volatile land they inhabited. Then, in a single apocalyptic event, the nearby Thera volcano erupted with a force estimated to be 4 times stronger than Krakatoa. Tsunamis hundreds of feet high radiated across the Mediterranean, while ash blotted out the sun for years. Thura's explosion didn't just bury Akrotiri, it may have triggered the collapse of the entire Minoan civilization on Crete, 100 miles to the south. So where does Atlantis fit in? Plato's dialogues describe a powerful island kingdom beyond the Pillars of Hercules, modern Gibraltar, destroyed in a single day and night by earthquakes and floods. Santorini, positioned between Greece and Crete, doesn't match that location, but here's the twist. Over centuries, details in oral traditions can warp. Thura's eruption was so colossal, its ash fell as far as Greenland. Survivors fleeing the disaster would have carried stories of a gleaming city vanishing beneath the waves, tales that could have traveled across the Mediterranean, morphing into the Atlantis legend. Even Plato's description of concentric rings of land and water eerily mirrors Santorini's caldera, the volcanic crater that formed when Thura collapsed inward. Yet not everyone's convinced. Critics argue Akrotiri, though advanced, lacks the godlike technology Plato ascribed to Atlantis, things like energy crystals and flying machines. Others point to the timing gap. The eruption predates Plato by over a millennium, leaving room for narrative drift. But consider this, the Minoans were the Mediterranean's first superpower, with a navy so dominant they imposed a pax minoica on rival kingdoms. To Bronze Age societies, their sudden disappearance would have seemed as inexplicable as a god's wrath. Could Atlantis, then, be a distorted memory of a real empire, its fate exaggerated into myth? The debate rages on, but one thing's certain: Akrotiri's ruins, both above and below the waterline, force us to rethink the boundaries between history and legend. Every fresco pulled from the ash, every pottery shard recovered from the seabed, whispers of a society that danced with nature's fury and lost. And as divers continue to explore Santorini's submerged coastlines, who knows what other clues might surface? After all, the ocean never gives up its secrets easily, but when it does, the truth is often stranger than any fiction. Beneath the turquoise waters of the Mediterranean, where sunlight filters down to illuminate the skeletons of ancient vessels, lies an underwater museum of human ingenuity, and nowhere is this more evident than the shipwrecks off the Greek island of Antikythera. Discovered by sponge divers in 1901, this 2,000-year-old wreck wasn't just another sunken trader. It was a time capsule from the height of the Roman Empire, packed with bronze statues, delicate glassware, and one artifact so baffling it would take a century to unravel its secrets. The Antikythera mechanism, a corroded bronze device no bigger than a shoebox, would eventually be recognized as the world's oldest known analog computer, a celestial calculator capable of predicting eclipses and tracking the Olympic Games with gears more intricate than anything Europe would see again for a millennium. What makes this shipwreck so extraordinary isn't just the mechanism itself, but what it reveals about the interconnected world that created it. The device's inscriptions suggest it was crafted in Corinth or Syracuse, hubs of Greek scientific thought, while the ship's cargo, statues from Asia Minor, amphorae from Rhodes, and silver coins from Pergamon, paints a picture of a bustling maritime highway. This wasn't just trade, it was an exchange of ideas where astronomical knowledge and mechanical genius sailed alongside spices and silks. The mechanism's precision cut gears, some with teeth just a millimeter wide, hint at a level of technological sophistication historians once believed impossible for the ancient world. Yet the Antikythera wreck is just one thread in a much larger tapestry. Nearby, off the coast of Turkey, lies the Uluburun shipwreck, a Bronze Age vessel carrying 10 tons of copper ingots, Egyptian gold, and Mycenaean swords, proof of a pan-Mediterranean trade network stretching back 3,300 years. Meanwhile, the Marsala Punic wreck near Sicily preserves not just cargo but the sailors themselves, with inscriptions on wooden tablets detailing rations and even a sailor's humorous doodle of a warship. These wrecks aren't merely tombs, they're snapshots of daily life, revealing everything from diplomatic treaties etched on lead sheets to the personal belongings of crew's combs, gaming dice, and even a Phoenician carpenter's toolbox with its chisels still sharp. The real revelation: how much we've underestimated ancient maritime technology. The Antikythera ship, a massive freighter capable of carrying 400 tons of cargo, had hull planks fastened with advanced mortise and tenon joints, a method so durable modern shipwrights still study it. And the navigation tools found aboard these vessels, like the portable sundials and lead-sounding weights, suggest sailors could cross open water with startling accuracy. But perhaps the most haunting lesson lies in the wreckage patterns. Many of these ships, including the Antikythera vessel, sank during sudden storms, their cargoes of art and innovation lost to the depths in moments. It's a reminder that progress isn't linear, that brilliance can vanish beneath the waves, only to resurface when the world is ready to recognize it. As divers continue to probe the Mediterranean's depths, who knows what other marvels might emerge from the shadows? After all, if a device as advanced as the Antikythera mechanism could be forgotten for 2,000 years, what else might be waiting in the silence? Just off the coast of Sicily, where the Mediterranean's cobalt waters hide more than shipwrecks and coral, lies a series of massive stone slabs that defy easy explanation. These submerged monoliths, some stretching nearly 40 feet long and weighing close to 100 tons, lie scattered in the shallow waters near the island's western tip. Their precise cuts and deliberate alignments suggest something far more intriguing than random geology. This could be the remnants of a prehistoric megalithic complex, a forgotten chapter of human ambition swallowed by the sea. Divers exploring the site have documented blocks with clean, 90-degree angles and surfaces so smooth they seem polished, arranged in formations that mirror known terrestrial megalithic sites like Stonehenge or Malta's Haga Kim. The most striking cluster, known as the Stonehenge of Sicily, consists of a dozen monoliths positioned in a semicircular pattern, as if marking the perimeter of a sacred space. Marine archaeologists have noted tool marks consistent with prehistoric stone working techniques, including pitting and abrasion patterns seen in other Neolithic structures. But here's the twist: these stones now sit under 15 feet of water, a depth that places their submergence around the same time as the Mediterranean's post-Ice Age sea level rise roughly 9,000 years ago. That's millennia before the pyramids, before the wheel, even before agriculture took root in most of Europe. So who built them? One theory points to the mysterious Sicani people, an indigenous group described by ancient Greek historians as the island's earliest inhabitants. The Sicani were known for their stone working skills, and their legends speak of a great flood that forced them to abandon coastal settlements. Another hypothesis connects the monoliths to the so-called Sea Peoples, a confederation of maritime raiders who roamed the Mediterranean during the Bronze Age collapse. But the most radical suggestion ties them to a lost Neolithic culture, one that mastered megalithic engineering long before mainstream archaeology believes possible. The purpose of these structures is just as enigmatic. Some researchers propose they formed a tidal calendar, their alignments tracking solstices and lunar cycles like a submerged Stonehenge. Others speculate they were part of a coastal defense system or a ceremonial dock for now-vanished seafaring rituals. The most haunting theory, that they marked the entrance to a settlement now completely underwater, a prehistoric village whose streets and homes lie buried under layers of silt. What makes Sicily's monolith so compelling isn't just their scale or age, it's the questions they force us to confront. If a society capable of moving 100-ton stones existed here 9,000 years ago, what else might we have missed, and how many other megalithic sites lie hidden along coastlines reshaped by rising seas? As the Mediterranean continues to reveal its secrets, these silent stones stand as a reminder. The past isn't always where we expect to find it. Sometimes it's right beneath our feet, just beneath the waves. Beneath the choppy waves of Lake Michigan, where freighters haul cargo and vacationers skim across the surface in sailboats, lies a discovery so unexpected it redefines our understanding of ancient North America. In 2007, while mapping the lakebed for shipwrecks, marine archaeologist Mark Holley stumbled upon something far older, a series of massive stones arranged in a perfect circle, some carved with unmistakable depictions of mastodons, creatures that vanished from this continent over 10,000 years ago. Dubbed the Underwater Stonehenge of Lake Michigan, this site isn't just a collection of rocks, it's a deliberate formation, its largest stones aligned with the summer solstice sunrise like a prehistoric celestial calendar. What makes this underwater enigma so compelling is its sheer improbability. Located under 40 feet of water near Traverse City, the structure sits in an area that was dry land until roughly 8,000 years ago when glacial meltwater filled the basin. The carvings, especially the mastodon image, suggest the stones were arranged by some of the earliest inhabitants of the Great Lakes region, possibly ancestors of the Anishinaabe people, whose oral traditions speak of a time when their ancestors lived where water now stands. The solstice alignment adds another layer of intrigue, mirroring sacred sites like Ohio's Serpent Mound or England's Stonehenge, evidence of a shared human impulse to track the cosmos. Yet controversy swirls around these sunken stones. Some geologists argue the formations could be natural, shaped by ancient glaciers dragging boulders across the landscape. The mastodon carving, while eerily precise, remains difficult to date definitively. Its lines could be the work of Paleo-Indians or the result of centuries of wave action. But here's what's undeniable. The site's location aligns with known post-Ice Age migration routes, and the surrounding lakebed has yielded other artifacts, from stone tools to fishing weirs, confirming human presence in this once dry valley. For the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa, the discovery resonates deeply. Tribal elders point to stories passed down through generations, tales of sacred sites submerged when the water rose, a possible reference to the same geological upheavals that flooded Doggerland and Bimini. Unlike European megaliths, which often stand as solitary monuments, the Lake Michigan Formation feels integrated into a larger cultural landscape, a waypoint for nomadic hunter-gatherers who moved with the seasons. The stone's true purpose may never be fully known, but their existence challenges long-held assumptions. We've long imagined prehistoric North America as a wilderness dotted with sparse, nomadic bands, yet here's evidence of people sophisticated enough to carve mammoths in stone and plot solstice markers. As climate change accelerates erosion along lakebeds and shorelines, sites like this are at risk of vanishing before we can study them further. Every dive, every sonar scan peels back another layer of a story we're only beginning to read, one written not on parchment but in stone, water, and time. Beneath the volcanic cliffs of the Canary Islands, where the Atlantic's waves carve hidden chambers into ancient rock, lies a watery graveyard holding the secrets of the Guanches, a people so isolated. Their origins remain one of archaeology's great puzzles. These caves, submerged by rising seas over centuries, cradle artifacts untouched for generations. Pottery shards etched with cryptic symbols, stone tools sharpened for fishing, and most hauntingly, the bones of the dead, carefully arranged in postures that hint at rituals lost to time. For decades, scholars assumed the Guanches were simple shepherds cut off from the wider world. But these underwater tombs tell a different story, one of a culture intimately tied to the ocean, their lives shaped by currents they may have dared to cross. Diving into these caves is like stepping into a shadowed cathedral. Sunlight filters through cracks in the volcanic rock, illuminating niches where bodies were laid to rest, some wrapped in woven reed shrouds, others accompanied by grave goods like seashell amulets and obsidian blades. The positioning of the dead speaks volumes. Many face east toward the rising sun, while others curl as if returning to the womb of the earth. But it's the artifacts that shatter old assumptions. Harpoons carved from whalebone suggest advanced maritime hunting techniques, while fishhooks made from goat horn reveal resourcefulness in an environment with no native metal. Most startling, fragments of wooden tablets inscribed with geometric patterns, a possible writing system, something never before attributed to the Guanches. Could these markings be navigational logs, star charts, or prayers to gods of the deep? The real revelation lies in what these finds imply about the Guanches' connection to the sea. Spanish conquistadors who arrived in the 15th century described the islanders as fearful of water, with no boats to speak of. Yet the underwater caves paint a portrait of a people who not only understood the ocean but may have ventured beyond their shores. Recent DNA studies show traces of North African ancestry, hinting at ancient voyages across the strait, a journey of nearly 70 miles against punishing currents. And then there's the mystery of the caves themselves. Many are nearly inaccessible without diving gear, their entrances hidden at depths exceeding 60 feet. How did the Guanches reach them? Some researchers speculate they used inflated animal bladders as makeshift flotation devices, or free-dived with stone weights to descend swiftly. Others propose the caves were dry when first used, later claimed by the sea as glaciers melted and tides crept higher. What makes these sunken tombs so poignant is their silent testimony to a culture erased twice over, first by colonization, then by the ocean. The Guanches left no written records of their own. Their history was penned by outsiders who saw them as primitive. But the caves whisper another narrative, of a people who read the stars and tides, who buried their dead with shells from distant reefs, who may have known the Canaries weren't islands at all, but mountaintops of a drowned world. As divers continue to explore these submerged chambers, each artifact pulled from the dark is a rebuttal to centuries of assumption. The ocean, it seems, kept their secrets better than the land ever could. And now, as the waves slowly give them back, we're left to wonder how many more answers lie in the blue darkness waiting to surface beneath the emerald waters of Qingdao Lake in China's Zhejiang province, where sunlight filters through 60 feet of water like liquid gold, lies a site that defies time, the lost city of Xicheng, known as the Lion City. Unlike other sunken ruins claimed by natural disasters or rising seas, this metropolis was deliberately submerged in 1959, sacrificed to the relentless march of progress when a hydroelectric dam project flooded the valley. But what might have been lost forever instead became one of underwater archaeology's most astonishing time capsules, a Ming Dynasty masterpiece frozen in perfect preservation. Diving into Xicheng is like slipping through a crack in history. The city's intricate stonework, untouched by wind or weather, gleams as if carved yesterday. Towering archways, their edges sharp as the day masons laid them, frame streets that once echoed with merchants and scholars. Walls adorned with dragons, phoenixes, and lions. The city's namesakes snarl and soar in bas relief, their details so crisp they seem to breathe. Even the wooden beams of long collapsed roofs remain intact, their lacquered surfaces protected by the lake's cold, sediment-rich waters. But it's the smaller touches that truly mesmerize. A stone tablet inscribed with classical poetry, meant to guide travelers, the grooves of cartwheels worn into flagstones by centuries of use, the remnants of shop stalls where silk and spices once changed hands. What makes Xicheng extraordinary isn't just its preservation, it's the window it offers into Ming Dynasty life at its zenith. Built over 1,300 years ago during the Tang Dynasty but flourishing under the Ming, the city was a hub of commerce and culture, its layout a deliberate assertion of harmony between human ambition and nature. The carvings adorning its walls aren't mere decoration, they're a language. Dragons symbolize imperial power, phoenixes rebirth, and lions protection, each motif a thread in the fabric of Ming cosmology. Even the city's 5 gates, each aligned to the cardinal directions, reflect the Confucian principle of order, a physical manifestation of the era's belief in balance. Yet the most poignant detail lies in what Xicheng lacks: signs of haste. Unlike Pompeii, frozen in panic, or Port Royal, collapsed mid-debauchery, this city was emptied with purpose. Artifacts recovered from its depths, porcelain bowls, inkstones, even a child's wooden toy, suggest an orderly evacuation, as if the residents knew their home would one day wake from its watery slumber. Today, that foresight feels almost prophetic. As divers glide through submerged pagodas and courtyards, they're not just exploring ruins, they're walking through a memory, a place suspended between past and present. The Lion City's fate holds a mirror to our own choices. In drowning Xicheng, modernity accidentally gifted the future an unparalleled relic. But the lake's depths pose their own questions. How many other treasures have we sacrificed without a second thought? And as underwater archaeologists map every carving, every alleyway, they're not just preserving history, they're reminding us that progress and preservation need not be adversaries. Sometimes the most profound legacies are the ones we didn't realize we were leaving behind. Deep in the heart of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, where sunlight gives way to an endless labyrinth of darkness, the cenotes hide more than crystal-clear waters. They guard rivers of secrets. These flooded sinkholes, formed over millennia by collapsing limestone, aren't just geological wonders. They're liquid archives of the Maya world, preserving traces of sacred ceremonies, desperate pleas to the gods, and even the fingerprints of a changing climate. To dive into these submerged caves isn't just an exploration, it's a descent into the very psyche of a civilization that saw these waters not as empty voids, but as portals to the underworld they called Xibalba. Among the most chilling discoveries are the human remains skeletons resting in eerie stillness. Some arranged in fetal positions as if returning to the womb of the earth, others sprawled unnaturally, their bones telling tales of sacrifice. At the cenote of Chichen, Itzar's sacred well, dredging operations in the early 20th century uncovered not just gold and jade, but the bones of nearly 200 individuals, many of them children. Analysis of their remains revealed signs of ritual violence, broken ribs from heart extraction, vertebrae marked by knife cuts, skulls fractured in precise patterns. These weren't random acts of cruelty, they were offerings to Chok, the rain god, during periods of devastating drought. The Maya believed the cenotes were mouths of the gods, and only the most precious gifts, human life itself, could quench their thirst. But the cenote's secrets aren't limited to tragedy. Archaeologists have found intricate pottery vessels, their surfaces painted with scenes of deities and underworld journeys, deliberately shattered before being cast into the water. Jade beads, obsidian blades, and even rubber figurines, some still bearing traces of sacred blue pigment, speak to ceremonies of renewal and rebirth. One cavern, Aktonha, yielded a cache of over 100 incense burners, each carefully placed to face the rising sun during the summer solstice. These artifacts aren't mere relics, they're fragments of a cosmic dialogue, a conversation between humans and the divine conducted in the language of water and darkness. The cenotes also hold a quieter, more insidious record, the fingerprints of climate change. Sediment cores extracted from their depths reveal layers of pollen and microfossils that tell a story of ecological collapse. At the height of the Maya Classic period, around 800 CE, the cores show a sudden shift from maize and tree pollen to drought-resistant weeds, a silent scream of failing crops. Stalagmites from nearby caves bear chemical scars of prolonged dry spells, their growth rings thinning like the ribs of starving children. These underwater rivers didn't just witness the Maya's pleas for rain, they recorded the very conditions that drove a civilization to its knees. What makes the cenotes so profoundly haunting is their duality. They're both tombs and time capsules, places of death and repositories of knowledge. Modern divers, armed with underwater lidar and 3D mapping tools, are now uncovering submerged passages that may lead to undiscovered chambers, and perhaps even the legendary black cenotes, mentioned in colonial texts as the most sacred and feared of all. As climate change once again alters rainfall patterns, the Yucatan's aquifers drop, revealing new openings in these watery labyrinths. Every expedition risks disturbing the delicate balance that's preserved these sites for centuries, yet each discovery peels back another layer of a story written not in ink, but in bones, jade, and the relentless drip of water on stone. The Maya saw the cenotes as the veins of the world, connecting the living to the ancestors and the gods. Today, they serve a different but no less vital purpose, reminding us that water, whether revered or taken for granted, shapes destinies. The same forces that drove priests to cast sacrifices into the deep now pull archaeologists downward, not to beg for rain but to listen, to the echoes of a civilization that understood too late the price of ignoring the whispers of the earth. And as we hover on the brink of our own ecological reckoning, the cenotes ask us a question not with words but with the weight of centuries pressing down. Will we learn from what lies beneath, or will we too become artifacts in the dark? Beneath the churning waters of the English Channel, where ferry routes now carve paths between Britain and France, lies an ancient landscape frozen in time, vast forests of oak, pine, and hazel, their trunks reduced to skeletal stumps rooted in seabed clay. These ghostly remnants, some still standing upright as if frozen mid-growth, are more than geological oddities. They're the bones of Doggerland's western frontier, a sprawling prehistoric landmass that once connected the British Isles to continental Europe. When divers and fishermen first hauled up pieces of dark, waterlogged wood, sometimes with telltale tool marks or animal bones nestled between roots, they were touching fragments of a world lost 8,000 years ago, a world where early humans walked driftshod from Belgium to Britain. The scale of this submerged forest is staggering. Sonar scans reveal entire river valleys winding through the channel's depths, their banks lined with the fossilized remains of trees that thrived during the last ice age's waning years. At low tide along Britain's Norfolk coast, storm surges occasionally expose these ancient timbers, their surfaces pocked with beetle borings and fungus patterns that betray a life lived on dry land. But the real treasures lie deeper: flint axes dropped by Mesolithic hunters, antler harpoons designed for spearing fish in long-vanished rivers, and even the footprints of aurochs pressed into prehistoric mudflats now buried under 40 feet of seawater. Each artifact paints a portrait of a resource-rich paradise, one that vanished as glacial meltwater transformed the channel from a river valley into an impassable moat. What makes these sunken forests so pivotal isn't just their age, but their role in rewriting human migration narratives. For decades, historians assumed Britain was colonized by small, sporadic bands crossing in primitive boats. But the density of tools and campfire remnants found on the channel floor suggests something bolder: a steady, deliberate migration across Doggerland's fertile plains, with families following game herds through woodlands that stretched unbroken from the Rhine to the Thames. The discovery of a ceremonial antler headdress near a submerged spring hints at spiritual connections to this landscape, proof that these weren't just nomadic foragers, but people who carved meaning into the land before it became sea. The forest's submergence wasn't sudden, but a slow-motion tragedy played out over generations. Core samples tell a story of rising waters creeping inland, salt poisoning freshwater marshes, and storms gnawing at the coastline. As the last land bridge dissolved around 6,500 BCE, Britain's Mesolithic inhabitants became islanders by default, their ancestral pathways erased by the tides. The channel's forests, preserved in anaerobic silt, became accidental time capsules, safeguarding pollen grains that reveal a climate in flux, birch giving way to hazel as temperatures rose, then entire ecosystems drowned by the relentless sea. Today, these submerged groves offer more than archaeological insight. They're a mirror to our own era of climate upheaval. The same forces that transformed Britain from peninsula to island are now lapping at coastal cities worldwide, albeit driven by fossil fuels rather than melting glaciers. When storm waves expose the channel's ancient roots, it's as if the past is whispering a warning. Landscapes we think permanent can vanish faster than stories can remember them. And as sea levels rise again, these ghost forests serve as both memorial and harbinger, their silent trunks standing guard over a lost world we're only beginning to understand. Buried beneath the shallow waters of the Schlei Fjord in northern Germany, the submerged ruins of Hedeby whisper tales of a time when Viking longships ruled the waves. This wasn't just any port, it was the beating heart of medieval Scandinavia's trade empire, a bustling gateway where silver from Baghdad, furs from Russia, and Frankish swords changed hands under the watchful eyes of Norse merchants. Today, the harbor lies silent under 10 feet of water, its wooden piers and shipwrecks preserved in the fjord's oxygen-deprived mud like a time capsule from the 10th century. Divers exploring Hedeby's watery grave have uncovered a treasure trove of maritime ingenuity. The most striking finds, the skeletons of Viking ships themselves, some mere fragments, others nearly intact, their overlapping planks fastened with iron rivets in the classic clinker-built style that made Norse vessels so agile. One particularly well-preserved wreck, dubbed the Hedeby longship, reveals a masterclass in naval engineering, a shallow draft for navigating rivers, yet sturdy enough for open ocean. But it's the smaller details that truly astonish. Tool marks on the timber show where adzes shaped the oak, while traces of wool caulking soaked in tar to seal gaps prove these weren't just boats but floating fortresses, built to withstand North Atlantic storms. The harbor's artifacts paint a vivid picture of Hedeby's role as medieval Europe's superstore. Arabic coins stamped with the names of caliphs rub shoulders with Byzantine silk fragments, evidence of trade routes stretching thousands of miles. A single excavation season yielded scales calibrated to weigh silver dirhams, the currency of the Islamic world, alongside amber from the Baltic and glassware from the Rhineland. Even more telling are the everyday items: combs carved from reindeer antler, fishing hooks forged from iron, and wooden toy boats hinting at a vibrant community where shipwrights, traders, and children alike thrived on the edge of two worlds, the Scandinavian homeland and the continent beyond. What truly sets Hedeby apart is its strategic genius. The harbor wasn't just randomly placed, it was a geographical cheat code. Nestled at the narrowest point of the Jutland Peninsula, it allowed ships to avoid the treacherous journey around Denmark's tip by dragging vessels across a short overland route. Archaeologists have found remnants of this portage road, its ruts worn deep by centuries of keels sliding on logs. This shortcut turned Hedeby into a medieval Panama Canal, where Norse captains could swap stories with Slavic hunters while their cargo was transferred between the Baltic and North Sea. Yet Hedeby's dominance couldn't last forever. Charred timbers and arrowheads found in the harbor mud tell of its fiery destruction in the 11th century, likely during a power struggle between Danish and Norwegian kings. But the sea, ever the preserver, ensured its legacy wouldn't vanish entirely. As silt slowly swallowed the ruins, it locked away secrets we're only now deciphering, like the ship's rib engraved with runes invoking Thor's protection, or the lost wax molds used to cast counterfeit coins, proving even Vikings had rogue economists. Standing on the fjord's edge today, it's hard to grasp that beneath the placid surface lies a crossroads of empires. Hedeby's remains challenge the stereotype of Vikings as mere raiders. Here, they were diplomats, engineers, and global citizens. Every rivet pulled from the mud, every foreign coin retrieved, rewrites the story of a people who didn't just conquer the waves, they built a world upon them. And as divers continue to map Hedeby's drowned wharves, who knows what other lost chapters of the Viking saga might surface from the dark? Beneath the swirling brown currents of the Amazon's rivers, where anacondas slither between submerged tree roots, lies one of archaeology's most perplexing puzzles: colossal geometric shapes carved into the earth, now hidden by floodwaters. These aren't natural formations, they're geoglyphs, massive human-made designs stretching hundreds of feet across the riverbeds. They're straight lines and perfect circles visible only from the air or during rare dry spells when water levels drop. What makes these submerged earthworks so revolutionary isn't just their scale. tale. It's the story they tell about a forgotten chapter of human history, one that shatters the myth of the Amazon as an untouched wilderness. For decades, the conventional wisdom held that the Amazon basin could never have supported large, complex societies. Its nutrient-poor soil and dense vegetation supposedly made agriculture impossible. But these underwater geoglyphs, some dating back over 2,000 years, suggest something extraordinary. A lost civilization that mastered the rainforest's challenges through ingenious engineering. The designs, ranging from squares and circles to intricate spirals, aren't just art. They're likely remnants of a vast agro-urban landscape. Satellite imagery reveals interconnected networks of these earthworks, many aligned with solstice sunrises or positioned near ancient canals and raised fields. This was no scattered tribal society. It was a coordinated, continent-scale transformation of the environment. The most compelling evidence lies in the soil itself. Studies of terra preta, the mysteriously fertile, black earth patches found near these sites, show it's not a natural phenomenon but a human invention. By mixing charcoal, pottery shards, and organic waste into the ground, these ancient Amazonians created self-renewing farmland capable of feeding thousands. Some researchers believe the geoglyphs mark the boundaries of these agricultural zones, serving as both ceremonial centers and practical infrastructure. Imagine wide plazas where rituals unfolded, surrounded by carefully managed orchards of fruit trees and floating gardens on the rivers. A vision of the Amazon as a cultivated garden, not an untamed jungle. Yet the most haunting question remains: why did this civilization vanish? The answer may lie in the very waters that now conceal their legacy. Sediment cores from riverbeds show dramatic shifts in rainfall patterns around 500 years ago, coinciding with the arrival of European colonizers. Diseases like smallpox likely ravaged populations, while forced labor in rubber plantations and missions disrupted traditional land management. Without human stewardship, the carefully maintained fields and canals were swallowed by the forest, and then by rising river levels caused by modern deforestation and climate change. What makes these drowned geoglyphs so urgent isn't just their historical significance, it's their relevance to today's climate crises. The ancient Amazonians didn't fight their environment, they partnered with it, creating sustainable systems that lasted millennia. As modern deforestation pushes the rainforest toward a tipping point, these underwater blueprints offer a stark lesson. Civilizations don't fall because of nature's wrath, but because they forget how to work with it. Every time the rivers briefly reveal those enigmatic shapes, it's as if the earth itself is whispering a warning and an invitation from the depths. From the sunken ruins of Heracleion to the enigmatic Baltic Sea Anomaly, from the submerged temples of Dwarka to the ghostly forests of Doggerland, each of these 25 clues isn't just a relic. They're pieces of a puzzle, fragments of a world we're only beginning to understand. Think about it, these discoveries rewrite history in real time. The Yonaguni Monument challenges our timelines, the Amazon's drowned geoglyphs shatter myths of untouched wilderness, and the Antikythera mechanism proves ancient minds were far ahead of their time. Every artifact pulled from the depths, every structure mapped on the ocean floor, forces us to reconsider what we thought we knew about human ingenuity, resilience, and even our collective memory. What ties these clues together isn't just water. It's the way they blur the line between legend and reality. For centuries, stories like Atlantis or the Seven Pagodas were dismissed as fables. Now, underwater archaeology is revealing the kernels of truth hidden in these tales. The flood myths passed down by cultures worldwide, they're echoing the geological trauma of rising seas. The descriptions of golden cities swallowed by waves, they're grounded in the fate of places like Pavlopetri or Chicheng. Science isn't debunking these myths, it's proving they were never just myths to begin with. They were warnings, histories, and memorials encoded in oral traditions because writing hadn't yet captured them. But here's the most thrilling part: we've barely scratched the surface. Less than 5% of the ocean floor has been explored with high-resolution tools. Imagine what else lies hidden in the uncharted 95% lost cities, forgotten technologies, even entire civilizations we don't yet have names for. The oceans aren't just hiding our past, they're guarding blueprints for understanding climate change, human migration, and cultural exchange. Every time a diver descends or a sonar pings the depths, we're not just uncovering history, we're rediscovering ourselves. So, what's your favorite clue? Was it the haunting solstice alignments of Lake Michigan stones, or the intricate gears of the Antikythera device? Maybe it's the way Doggerland's footprints make history feel heartbreakingly human. Whatever resonated with you, share it below, because this conversation isn't just about the past. It's about the stories we'll tell next, the mysteries still waiting in the dark. And if you're as captivated as we are, hit that subscribe button. The ocean's got plenty more secrets to spill, and we're just getting started, who knows? The next great discovery, the one that changes everything, might be the clip you watch right here tomorrow. Until then, keep wondering, keep exploring, and remember, the deepest waters often hold the brightest truths.